Welcome to the 200th episode of our podcast, Proud to be a Man. That's the episode, special name that we've given for today's episode. Today, we celebrate a major milestone and reflect on the journey we've taken so far. Being proud to be a man is not about labels or stereotypes. It isn't about being arrogant or dismissive, but rather it's about embracing the best qualities that men can embody: strength, resilience, compassion, and leadership. Over the past 199 episodes, we have had the privilege of interviewing nearly 200 influential and knowledgeable figures who've shared their insights on topics that matter most to men and boys, as well as the broader community. Overall, we've done over 600 videos that included panel discussions, among other things, as well. From mental health to relationships to education, personal growth, we've explored it all. Incidentally, please remember this is Men's Mental Health Month. Our organization is committed to creating a platform where leaders can share their stories, challenges, and triumphs. We're proud of the impact we've had so far, but we know there's still more work to be done. As we look to the future, we're excited to continue evolving and finding new ways to reach a wider audience, spark meaningful conversations, and drive positive change. As we embark on this conversation, we invite our listeners to reflect on their own values and actions. How can we work together and create a world that values the contributions of all individuals, regardless of their background or identity? Let's approach this conversation with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to learn from each other. Hi, my name is Dipchan Ramcharita. I'm the Outreach and Development Coordinator here at Voice of Men 360, which is a non-profit organization based in London, Ontario, Canada, and primarily focused on the well-being of men and boys, though at times we reach out to other demographics as best we can. Voice of Men 360 is part of International Men's Day, which has been around for more than 25 years and serving in over 95 countries, providing similar services. Before we get started, we have an announcement of Reclaiming Your Life as a Senior, which is a program we're running from Saturday, September 6, 2025, every week from 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Please register. Our phone number is 226-289-8784, and our email is info@voiceofmen360.org. Our website is www.voiceofmen360.org. We would have two special and knowledgeable facilitators, Dr. Kamram Ahmad and Wayne Rabbitskin. So please join us. And if you're a senior over 55, we welcome you to participate in it. And you can do so by looking at the information I've just provided. Now on to our disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers and do not necessarily represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360. Now, we have two topics we're covering today, the 200th episode, obviously, but that will be followed by Father's Day, so we ask you to stick around for that. These both shows are expected to run somewhere in the vicinity of an hour to 90 minutes or so. If we have two people on the panel right now, if anybody else is joining us on the panel, and you have to leave earlier for whatever reason, you can let us know, and you can air your views first. We are privileged to have and welcome Susan Schwartz from the USA and our own Rob Herhals. Sorry, Rob, sometimes I mispronounce your name, from Voice of Men 360. Welcome to both of you to the program. And let's get started right off, kick things off with, what do you think about the Open Up podcast, and do you have any suggestions to improve it? Susan, you want to take that first?
Yes, I will. I wouldn't know really how to improve it. What I think is important is that men have a voice that is other than what we have classically associated with men in a more authoritarian, disciplinarian, or harsh, unrelated way. So I think what you are doing, to me, is very admirable and very apt for our current era.
Thank you, Susan. Rob? You're muted, Rob.
There we go. Honestly, I think this is a better question to ask at the end, once we've actually gone through the questions and have a chance to digest all of this. I mean, conceptually, I think it's a great idea. But ways to improve it, to me, I think I'll have some thoughts with that, in that regard, towards more of the conclusion of the session today.
Okay, I was talking in general terms of what we've had so far with the 199 episodes, but yeah, if you want to elaborate more towards the end, you are welcome to do so. So let's shift gears a bit. What are some ways men can prioritize their mental health and well-being, including self-care practices?
I'll jump
Susan?
in. I mean, I think it's
Sorry.
for me, my personal routine is to make sure that you get enough sleep. Sleep is crucial, even if it's a 20-minute cat nap. I mean, I sleep for 3 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours, and sometimes I'll sleep for 45 minutes, and I'll wake up. That just feeling of waking up, it just seems as though your mind has been wiped clean. Doesn't matter how long you've been sleeping, and then you just approach your next series of tasks with a fresh and open mind.
Yes.
That's a big one for me.
Sleep.
Sleep, and that has a big impact on the clarity, and removing any fogginess that I might have.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely need sleep, which I myself don't get enough of, and I know what you mean. Susan?
Yes, I was going to add to that as well. Our basic needs, I think, is what Rob is also referring to, one of which is definitely being able to key into how you feel as you wake up, how you feel during the day, be aware of how those feelings are coming through your body. And so I think that we could say sleep makes us aware of our bodies, and our bodies also make us aware of our psychological self. So one connects to the other in a very healthy way. I think, unfortunately, what has happened is that many men have not really had it verified that what they feel is really important. So, in addition to the body, in a healthy way, also one's psyche.
Yeah, absolutely. We all go back to this. Well, you can call it a cliche if you want, but it's men's lack of, willingness to come forward, and there are various reasons for that. When it comes to their own well-being. So that's something that obviously needs to be addressed as well. Now, when it comes to the issue of being role models for younger men, because they can certainly use some of those, how can men best serve as role models, positive role models for boys and younger men, and what responsibilities come with that role? Rob?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is that you need to be of service to yourself, because if you can't be of service to yourself, you can't be of service to other people. So that goes back to, the ways that we take care of ourselves, impacts our ability to help others. Right. So by that I mean maintaining some sort of self-discipline to be a role model. I mean, it's like it's not the whole do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. It's you have to lead by example, and that is a crucial thing if you want any sort of credibility, and if you want people to believe in what you're saying, you need to lead by example, and that is something that I have learned. I've worked with a number of different people in different fields, and there's a pattern to the people that are uh, exceptional at their job, and they all tend to lead by example. They wouldn't ask someone to do something that they wouldn't do themselves. And to me, that is one of the hallmarks of a really effective leader.
Absolutely. Susan?
Yes, I'm going to take it into a differently personal way and raise the question of how does a man learn to be an interactive, emotional, well-related person when that is perhaps not what he learned. And yet that is what he probably needs to pass on to his sons, who are desirous of learning how to get in touch with their emotions. It is the emotional place as well, that if we are not connected to that, our body speaks out and starts to scream. But also, what happens is that men become quite bewildered. They don't know how to read the emotional signals because nobody taught them. So, I think that there's a huge possibility, responsibility, and opportunity for men, to be able to really be very, very aware of how they feel. And I would say that as men get into their emotions, they're I don't want to say happy because it's not all happy emotions, but there's a relief. It's like I know what I feel and I'm going to share it. And I'm going to share it with other men and other boys to be able to hear what they have to say. So it becomes a loop of one to the other.
Yeah, that's very important as well. In addition to the points that valuable points that Rob made as well. On the flip side of that, what advice would you give to the young men who are looking for guidance and mentorship? Susan?
That's a good question. I mean, I think some of the same topics apply. I mean, if they're looking for leadership, um, depending on where that leadership comes from. I mean, a lot of young guys look up to sports athletes,
Yeah.
um, who are on this the highest end of the stratosphere for wealth and success, and all of the stuff that they have, and I think that's part of the attraction. I mean, not that it necessarily should be. I mean, but to achieve what they can achieve or have achieved to get to that point is, to me, the motivational factor. So I think it's who motivates you and why do they motivate you, and ask those questions of yourself. And it's like, why am I attracted to this person? What qualities does this person have that I can tap into? Because you hear so many stories of people that started from nothing and became hugely successful in their fields, and those to me have always been the compelling stories. And I love listening to stories like that, and I think taking a page out of that book and trying to apply it to yourself as a young man might give you that sense of inspiration and motivation to help push you forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Susan?
Yes, I think it's a question of also how do we define success? Not define it in a rigid way, but what does it mean really? And it is beyond the place of um, status or money. It actually involves how we relate to ourselves and each other and how open we are to each other's similarities or differences and to ourselves. It's interesting. I learned this week a very interesting way that someone who comes to me for therapy learns about being a man. He watches it on YouTube. He watches certain YouTubes which relate to positive self regard. I said, I think that's fantastic because there were very few men that this person knew to relate to in positive self regard. It's a very important key way that one is able to make it through life, positive self regard, through YouTube videos. It's gorgeous. It's part of our world. And maybe also the people that are watching this will also gain ways of how to find that love of self, which then allows for love of others.
For sure. YouTube is indeed a blessing.
Yes.
And considering the alarming amount of young people out there, especially young men who don't seem to have a father figure in their life and often turn to, ways that aren't beneficial. In fact, it's detrimental to society. And so they really need some mentorship. They need somebody in the budding stage to get them off the streets and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a huge task ahead of us, and we all need to join forces and see how best we can resolve that particular issue.
Mhm.
When it comes to men themselves, how do you handle as men setbacks, failures, or challenges, and what coping strategies do you find most effective? Susan, why don't you start this?
Yes, I will. I think that so when I work with people or people will talk about success or failures, you could look at it either way. There's a message in there about what are you supposed to learn because development and life is not just a straight shot. It is also a kind of an up and down process, and how one is able to go up and down with the realities of life, I think is incredibly important. I'm going to mention another thing, which actually is what I do as well. I always encourage people to pay attention to their dreams and their images of what they want to be or how they view themselves. And dreams and those kind of images really help solidify who am I? And that really is a question that is pretty much up. Who am I? Who am I as a man? And how do I walk through the world as somebody who's aware of myself, but also of other people? So, dreams, images of oneself, goals, ideas, and being able to say it to somebody who honors their being.
Yeah, that's a bit of a different take, but it's effective, and men can use all the help they can get, and there are different facets of life and different procedures they can adopt to better themselves. Obviously, Rob, what's your take on the situation?
I just want to say that was very well said, Susan.
Thank you.
I would say personally, I do a lot of reflecting on I think a lot about the past and work that I've done and relationships that I've had. And it always comes down to, what would I have done differently in certain situations. And now being that much older, I find that I'm not as impulsive. I don't have the temper that I used to have. I can let things sort of slide and roll off my back a little bit more. And those are, when I have two boys and they're young men now, and when I see that sort of aggression come through, it's almost like being a referee. It's okay, let them have their moment, but also get in there and find a teachable moment where I can share my experience to, lessen their stress, and show them that the old man does know a couple things here and there. And yeah, I think reflection is a big, for me anyhow, it's a big part of not only, yeah, I mean it's learning, it's continuous learning, but it's rooted in the past and things that I would have done differently, relationships, interactions, all of that kind of stuff. That
Yeah,
is sort of my thought process.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, as we grow older, we tend to smooth off the rough edges, and yeah, we all are impulsive and more likely to be drawn to anger and whatnot earlier on. But then as time go by, especially if you have younger ones looking up to you, you have to develop more sense of rationale, and things like
Mhm.
that to be able to handle, younger ones and guide them to a better, right path, if I can say that. Um, Before we move on, there's just another announcement I'd like to make. This evening at 7 p.m., we have what we call a peer support group meeting. The topic would be fathers, sons, and mental health, building stronger bonds. So please join us at 7 p.m. this evening. That's Eastern Standard Time. The next topic I'm going to touch on, well, not really touch, I'm going to elaborate a bit, is concerning men's mental health. And as we all know, this is June is Men's Mental Health Month. I'm going to read off some statistics here for men's that shows where men are currently, which aren't very encouraging. Over 6 million men suffer from depression each year, but it often goes undiagnosed. Roughly 3 million men have a panic disorder, agoraphobia, or another type of phobia. 90% of people diagnosed with schizophrenia um, are men around the age of 30. It's estimated that 35% of those with binge eating disorders are men. The highest suicide rates in the US, well, this is the US figures, are with Caucasian males over 85 years old. About 1 in 5 men will develop an alcohol dependency during their lifetime. It's shown that low levels of testosterone, which is pretty much where we are today, testosterone has dropped off precipitously over the last 40 or 50 years. That's correlated with depression, stress, and mood swings. Now, we as a society would obviously do well to confront and resolve this disaster as soon as possible, as that would not only be in the best interest of the men directly impacted, but that of their friends, families, and society at large. Your thoughts, please, Rob?
Well, when it comes to depression, I mean, it is a medical condition, and it requires analysis and treatment, and in some cases medication. A lot of cases medication. So the first thing I would suggest, and again, having two young adult sons, I've seen this cycle go through my household. Whereas parents, when you see them acting a certain way, and you just think to yourself, oh, that's just kids being kids, and that's the way I was grown up this way, and tough it out. Like those things don't work. They might have worked, a generation ago, or maybe not. I mean, maybe those people, like my dad, for example, he might have been carrying scars around that I never saw because he never talked about his feelings or any of that kind of personal stuff. Um, but now we live in a society where if a child acts out in school, a parent goes to the school to pick up their child, the teacher pulls them aside and says, I saw so and so fidgeting, and fidgeting is a sign of this. And you say, fidgeting? I mean, what kid doesn't fidget? right? Well, it's a specific kind of fidgeting, and parents, I did it, went through denial, 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 until suddenly I said, okay, I've heard this enough, let's look into it. And sure enough, that's when you hear things like ADD and ADHD, and but there are treatments, and there are doctors and medications that help with this. Now, some people are absolutely against medicating their children for these kinds of things. That's their choice, and that's fine. But I've seen enough, and I've seen the behavior before and the behavior after, and the behavior after the treatment is a lot better, and it is easier on the psychological aspects of my kids as they were growing up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Susan?
Yes, a couple of comments in relation to what Rob has said, and what you said as well, Dipshan. You didn't mention addictions or internet addiction, and
Yeah.
I've found that is true. I'm across the board, but much more with men, and pornography. So I
Yeah.
think that because people don't answer honestly, I think it's much more than is there. And what that indicates is solitariness and aloneness and being a bit of a robot. It's not really connection with self. And the other thing that Rob had kind of alluded to is how many men are carrying the transgenerational wounds of the father, the grandfather, the great grandfather, the country, the environment, the economics. We all carry those wounds. The question is, are we paying attention to the fact that we are not isolated individuals, but that we are connected all the way back and all the way forward? So I think looking at what has hurt that silent father that Rob was referring to, and realizing how we are carrying it ourselves. And, it's like peeling off layers. And it's so
Mm.
helpful because you know what it does? Strangely, it connects the son to the father, and the son to the father, and the son to the father. And one needs connection. And then you understand. It doesn't mean you're happy about it, but you do understand. And one other thing I would add is that so many men that I have worked with will say, guys talk about sports, and I don't want to talk about sports. I want to talk about how I feel today. So I think, given space for that, some of the things that were listed, the depression, addictions, all kinds of disturbances, weight, binging, etc., alcoholism might also have a correction if one learns to relate and not just keep everything inside at the internet and the computer, or however people misuse pornography.
Yeah, those are important points as well, and that's a severe addiction, as well as you can throw in other things like gambling, or and
Yeah,
drugs, and all these other things. So those are areas that definitely need to be addressed. The earlier the better, obviously. Which kind of leads to, in a way, to the other question of how do you think traditional notions of masculinity can both be empowering and limiting to men? Rob?
Traditional definitions of masculinity. Uh, well, I guess it depends on how you define traditional. Traditional, as in a generation or two ago, compared to today. Um, I don't know. I think that it goes back. It's sort of linked to the previous discussion that we had.
Right.
A generation ago, like my dad, for example, never complained. Well, he did complain a lot about his work. He hated it, but he did it. And he every morning he had his routine. He went, he did what he did. He didn't complain. When he got home, he had a couple beers. He had dinner. He hung out with us, and then he had to go back to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. So he was asleep by 9 o'clock at the latest. Um, So we didn't really see too much of him Monday to Friday, but on the weekends it was different. But it's in terms of a role model, in terms of a role model as a father. I mean, he did what he had to do, come hell or high water, to make sure that there was food on the table and the lights were on, and he was very caring and loving, and he had a wonderful sense of humor. But he lacked an education coming over here from Germany after the Second World War in the early 1960s. Met my mom, got married, did the whole thing. And that is, to me, growing up, that was traditional. And he wasn't a tough guy or anything like that. He just, he had his own self-discipline, and he stuck to it. And today's traditions, I tried to live up to what my dad, accomplished. I think I've accomplished things in different areas, but his work ethic is something that I think, if only 10% of it ever rubbed off on me, that would be enough to get me through life, with that sense of responsibility and discipline that I can impart on my children.
Yeah, well, you're right. Times have evolved, so traditions, you would say that the dynamics of that have as well. The concept of providing and protecting still remains for men, but yes, you're right. Situations have changed over time regarding traditions. Susan?
Yes, I'm going to add something different, which is that, or a different viewpoint. When I looked up fathers and men on Google, there is not much wording on nurturance, relatedness, affectionality, lovingness, emotional sharing, hardly at all. So what we've actually still have is the authoritarian, disciplinarian. This is the words that get used. The father protects, he guides. It is hardly mentioned that he loves. I think that's very sad. And I think that affects our world. It affects men currently. And if we peel off the facade, I think we find not enough change. I think there has not been enough room for men to be the emotional selves as they are. Besides providing, we have a changed world, and we have a world that defines family quite differently. And we need the fathers and the men to be able to relate quite deeply, because we live in fraught times, and we are going to need that in order to be able to withstand the stresses that our world is under. So although I think it's very important that we all honor the good things that we got, it is also important to say, and I also want this. So I'm going to try to provide it for myself and my children.
Excellent. And speaking of which, regarding men, now we move to on a much broader scale. What role can men play in promoting greater understanding and empathy between, I would say, rather amongst different groups, especially marginalized communities? Rob?
Mm.
Sorry, could you say that again, Dipchan?
What role can men play in promoting greater understanding and empathy amongst different groups, especially marginalized communities?
Okay. When we say marginalized, what specifically are we referring to?
Any?
Underprivileged people, like
Okay.
who are disadvantaged more than others in society.
Again, just for myself, I get involved in community events as much as I can. Get out there, shake hands, meet people, talk to your neighbor. Um, you know, provide some sort of sense of reassurance to somebody that may not have it, that if they need something that they can, call upon you, or become part of a men's group, such as this. I think it's, um, interfacing and just connecting with another human being, um, at the grocery store, and like anywhere, where you will come across somebody that, um, you know, may be struggling, and you can help them out. Not necessarily financially. I mean, if you can, great, but people have mixed feelings on that. Um, I think just being present.
Hmm.
That's a good point. You got to be there, and make yourself be seen and heard, and that's a good start. And yeah, there are lots of people that out there that need help, and men. In addition to the burden that they carry, which they do, for sure. They are expected to chip in as well, and give their input
There
in
are
these
so many ways
situations.
to be connected now. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, like I say, get into the community. I mean, you can do a lot of that just through groups on, on your cell phone.
yeah,
I can talk to somebody overseas that is struggling with something, and can just lighten the load a little bit by just sharing an experience, or I mean, I won't give advice unless I'm asked for it, and just find some commonality, and then infuse some humor into it, because nothing breaks the ice more than a good belly laugh. And these might sound like really simplistic things, but I think you collect them all. They can make a difference, especially to somebody that might need that little boost of pick me up. Um, whether it's today, because it's like a boomerang. You throw it out there, and it'll come back to you.
yeah, for sure. Susan?
Yes, I agree. I think also how we talk around the dining room table or in our families, how the children hear us with our opinions, and hopefully our ability to look beyond our own small borders and to be inclusive rather than exclusive, and not to be afraid of people who are not the same as us. It really happens in men being very aware of how they are and how they act all the time. And I think, Rob, you were saying very important things about how we act out in the world and how we act behind our closed doors
Right.
also, as well as being very reflective and questioning ourselves. Why are we acting the way we act? And I think doing that really helps expand rather than contract. And I think we also are in quite a precarious world where we really need to be able to talk about fear and apprehension and be open and question rather than shut down and be fearful.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And we're, excuse me. Yeah, just some further announcements before we come to a close. We would love for everyone out there, get as much people as possible to join us on our various programs. I can give some information here. We are available on many of the social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. We have a Facebook group page. Please join our group for and see our daily agendas, and make sure you invite your friends as well. And we have a YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. Please subscribe to that. We would really appreciate it. Phone number is 226-289-8784. Our email is info@voiceofmen360.org. And our website is www.voiceofmen360.org. So we're pretty much to the end of this first session. We do have another coming up soon. We remind you of that. So as we wrap up this 200th landmark episode, let's take a moment to acknowledge the often overlooked contributions of men worldwide. Men disproportionately take on the world's most demanding and dangerous jobs, defend their nations, and make sacrifices that impact their lives and relationships, part of which unfortunately has resulted in a severe toll taking on their mental health, which we've discussed to some length during this show. Yet these efforts often go unnoticed and underappreciated. Despite this, men continue to strive for a better world where people from all backgrounds can coexist in harmony and pursue their dreams. Let's take a moment to appreciate their resilience, determination, and compassion that define men from all walks of life. To all men and boys out there, we salute you. May your actions be guided by integrity, empathy, and kindness. And to the boys who will become the leaders of tomorrow, may you grow into men who can sincerely say, proud to be a man. Here's to the men who shape our world, often behind the scenes, and to the boys who will shape the future. Don't go anywhere, folks, as momentarily we are going to be discussing Father's Day, specifically about the absolute need for a father in a child's life. But first, a hearty thank you for tuning in, everyone, so far. We certainly appreciate your time spent with us today. Now, we would love you to stick around for the Father's Day segment, but in case you can't, thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next episode of Open Up, which we will be announcing in a couple weeks or so. So that's it for our first segment. As we know, tomorrow is Father's Day. In the next little while, we will be getting into fathers and the role they play, particularly focusing on the critical role they play in their child's life. You know, we have fathers, they are the ones who work tirelessly to provide for the family. They a lot of times sacrifice their own dreams and desires. They are the ones who are expected to be strong, stoic, and selfless, and not allowed to show weakness or vulnerability in any way. They spend countless hours guiding, mentoring their children, shaping their values and worldview, and often put their family needs before their own, making their sacrifices in silence. And they are usually the rock that holds the family together, even in the world, even if the world around them rather seems to be falling apart. So welcome again, Rob and Suzanne, to this segment, and just general comments on Father's Day. And start us off, Rob.
Well, sadly, my dad's in heaven. He's been there for about 10 years. So it's a heavenly Father's Day and Mother's Day. But day doesn't go by where I don't think of him. I think about his humor. I think about some of the antics that he was a joker.
Yeah.
You know, he made people laugh. He loved to make people laugh. He could sing a song, like his sense of memory for old school folk songs from, you know, from Germany, from where he grew up, just came back like that. He used to love playing cards, and he used to love seeing me get pissed off when he beat me. And then I found out he cheated every once in a while, so just to get me going. And you know, my household was filled with nothing but love. And you know, I didn't realize, you know, when you're growing up, you don't realize that you're living in a poor neighborhood. You don't know poor from rich from anything, because you don't know any different. So this is your world, and you have people that love you, and you're safe, and you have food on the table, and you have pretty much, you know, everything that you could ever ask for. And then you grow up, and it's like, wow, you know, this is really, yeah, this neighborhood has changed so much, because when you leave it and come back, all of a sudden this nostalgia floods into you. But you always remember the good times, and I really have nothing bad to say about my dad at all. You know, I wish he was still here.
Yeah, that's funny, but true, Rob. And I can relate. My dad himself passed away quite a few years ago, and it was pretty much the same way as you described your dad. And I think it sort of is a sort of a general way that dads are worldwide. No matter where you go, it's in their nature to be that way. Susan, what are your general thoughts on Father's Day?
My general thoughts are going to be very different than both of yours because the experience that I have in hearing people in my office is not the sweetness, really. And I don't mean to be too much on another side, but I think Father's Day allows us to really evaluate who was the father. How was he to me? What did I wish? What did I get? Am I honest with him? Can we have a discussion? Who is he really? Who is he? Not who is he as the father, but who is he as a person? And I think reflecting and evaluating what did I get, what did I not get, allows one to then be able to say, and how will I pass this on? How will I pass on what I learned and what I am growing from? Whether the father was good, bad, or indifferent, how am I coping with it? Where does it live inside of me? How do I pass it to the next generations? So I think Father's Day is really a day of honest reflection. It does not mean that one should be painting a picture better than it was or worse than it was, but to try to be realistic about what one got and what one needed.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's for sure. Before we go any further, Susan, could you tell us a bit more about your book?
Um, mm, well, the first one was on absent fathers and daughters. And the second one is not the second, the fifth is on absent fathers and yearning sons. So they have a similar theme. You can hear it in my comments, actually, which is how the absence fills. So this is what I think is positive about looking at what is not there. It is, and how am I going to fill it within my own self, to other people? How will I deal with loss? Not to deny grief and mourning, but to fill it with one's fulfillment and advancement and moving on in life. So my books are all published by Routledge. They're on Amazon or wherever you find books. And they have the perspective of Jungian psychology, Jungian analytical psychology, because I'm an analyst. So a Jungian analyst. Thank you for that comment about the books, but they
Yeah.
really are oriented to being able to evaluate who are you and who is your father.
Yeah, for sure. One further question on this particular issue: what type of response have you had from the public?
Do you know what's amazing? The amount of languages that book has been published in absolutely blows my mind. So many languages and more and more and more. And what it says is the whole concept of a father who is absent, be it from a son or from a daughter or whoever, is ubiquitous. It's amazing. I'm not just saying fathers are bad. I'm saying they weren't able to have, they didn't learn how to relate. This is a generational story, transgenerational story, actually worldwide. I have been astonished at the amount of people from various cultures, economic backgrounds, who have said, I can identify.
Very good. Let's stick with you, Susan. And we have been discussing so far, in general terms, what Father's Day means, but in specific terms, how much is a father needed in a child's life?
Excuse me. I think a father figure So that, we live again, our families are quite different than whatever they used to be, whatever that means. And so I think whoever is taking that role is important, because there's a lot of single parent families, there's a lot of mixed families, there's a lot of different families, and why not? The question is, who's going to take that role of a father, and what is his role? And how does he nurture? How does he love? How is he present? How does he show his vulnerabilities and abilities, his struggles, his needs? How does he really relate to his children? So I think that's what is really important. The role of a father, I don't really know how to define it. I just know it is beyond discipline, authoritarian, and the guy that works. I think it is how you show up, really show up, and be present. And that's very amorphous, but I think we all know what it is like when a father figure is very present. Whether we have had it or not,
Yeah.
we have an image of what it is.
Yeah, and again, those are some very proven but essential questions that you asked during that comment. So we appreciate those. Rob, what's your take on that?
So what was the question? I was getting distracted by Susan's books here. I was reading up on them while while you were asking the question.
Okay, well, that's time well spent. The question was specifically, we were talking in general terms about Father's Day. So
Yep.
specifically, how is a father needed in a child's life? What critical role does the father play?
Well, yeah, a father has to be. I mean, you always hear the story of the kid who's walking home and he sees his dad in the car driving by, and the dad waves to him, and then he never sees him again. Um, and it sounds like a movie cliche, but it happens time and time again, and it still does. Um, so being there, showing up, being there to love, to support, to discipline, to take your lumps and get the lumps taken back to you, because once they become teenagers and they get bigger than you, it's a whole different kettle of fish. And then just be kind, because hopefully as we get older, they're going to end up taking care of us, right? That's the hope, anyhow. You don't. So I mean, it all comes down to, and I make light of it, but it's not, you know, not to be, you know, flip or anything like that. It's important to be present, and kids need a father. Doesn't matter how old they are. Um, Same thing. You could be 50 years old, 60 years old. You're still going to be your mother's little boy, right? And the same thing. Fathers are the same thing. No matter how old my kids are going to get, they're still the little kids that ran around kicking soccer balls around and rolling around in the mud and all the stuff that little boys do, right? So you have to be there for all moments, and don't shy away from the tough ones, and don't be afraid to instill some level of discipline. It doesn't have to be anything harsh. It can just be, my dad had it trained. He could give me a look, and that look, I knew exactly what that look meant. And that look meant, stop doing what you're doing. You're about to cross that line. And when I asked him, did I cross the line? He goes, look behind you. Right. And that's when I knew, okay, I know it's coming next. So let's just cool it. But it's being present, being there, and love, affection, discipline, all of those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, the disciplinarian factor certainly plays a huge part in the father's
But also,
role.
it inspires leadership too. I mean, that is, and seeing, again, going to the leading by example, right? Um, you want your kids to behave a certain way. Well, show them how, you want them to behave. Like, um, you know, put it on display. Like, be good. Let them see you be good. Be angry. Okay, let them see you be angry. be honest, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah, simple but effective. You need that discipline, you need that leadership, you need that mentorship from your dad for sure. And um, it's more, I guess, more um, pronounced when you look at it on a larger scale, because when it comes to single parent household, um, single dads, and these are anecdotal, these aren't scientifically proven. At least I don't know it has been that single dad households comes pretty close to the stability of a two-parent household, whereas the single mother household, there's usually a lot more issues in terms of the children growing up delinquent. It leads to things like runaways, addictions, incarceration, and things like that on a broader scale. So that's something that is part of it has to do with the family court system, obviously, and the custody, um, the way how that's determined. Although now I think in Canada, I'm not sure for the US, I think it might be as well. They're more going towards a default of 50-50, custody. And then based on the individual cases, they would determine which parent may, in certain cases, get more time with that child. So that's a factor to consider as well. What are your thoughts on that, Susan?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What I have read actually is a bit different than what you are saying. So I just want to
Yes,
bring it in as an additional point
right.
that what I've read is that without a father, um, I have not heard that the father is more stable. I just haven't.
I did. So, we have difference of opinion there.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And the other thing I would say is that in the United States, for years, it has been 50-50. And you
Okay.
have to, and one or the other parent, whoever they are, has to be very unstable to not get 50-50. They have to be quite emotionally off to not have 50-50. So the children get part of this and part of that. Um, I don't know that it's easy for anybody, but it's usually 50% and 50%. It's been that way for a long, long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in Canada, I think recently it's moved more towards the 50-50 mark. It used to
Uh,
be generally the mom would automatically get custody of the child regardless of the situation, sometimes to the detriment of the situation. But
yeah.
again, based on experience, the court has shifted that particular way of dealing with that situation. Rob, any thoughts on this particular issue?
Not really. I mean, again, just growing up, I mean, I came across some very strong women that their husbands took off and they were left with raising a couple of kids on their own, and I don't recall seeing, the delinquency or the bad behavior. They ruled it and they were tough.
Yeah.
They were tough. Maybe it's a different time then than it is now. Well, it is a different time then than it is now, but um, I didn't see that sort of that disparity between um, fathers and mothers being able to raise a family better than one or the other. I mean, if you're a father that takes off, I mean, what kind of a deadbeat does that to their family,
Right.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, those points are well taken. I was referring to like sort of a general trend that has been put forward. Again, I don't have scientific evidence to back that up. It's more opinions of people that I consider to be credible that has made those assertions.
Oh,
But
sure, yeah.
you would always find situations where one or the other would be, better than the next. So these things do happen.
I
Susan,
think,
you wanted to add something
yeah,
else?
I just wanted to add something, which is that I think it's how the parents explain to the children and to each other what has happened and why there is a rupture in the family. And if it is spoken about honestly and truthfully, it does not mean the parents have to like each other, but it does mean that they're going to be communicating honestly with their children and as clearly as they can with each other, given the fact that they are no longer together. And to really be honest about it. It's not easy. Any way you slice it, everyone's going to have a reaction. So it's how to make room on the table for the reaction.
Yeah, the children obviously should not suffer at the parents going at each other, which is sometimes the case when a divorce is in the air or if it already happened.
Yeah.
And why put the children through that sort of situation? I myself is a divorcee. Fortunately, I didn't have to go through that. We were amicable. I'm just bringing up that as an example of how I think it would be like a model for situations that involve custody and things like alimony or whatever the case might be. If you reach some sort of a mutual amicable settlement without even the need to go to court or seek some sort of legislative solution to that problem. So if that happens, it's good. But too often, as you suggested, there are times the parents get in the way of the children's happiness by going at each other like in a very childish way. So that doesn't augur well for anybody in society. We were expecting Dr. Jerome Tilak-Singh from International Men's Day. I haven't seen Sivam. Is he around? I think he was supposed to come on around this time. Do you have any information whether he's around or he's going to be joining us shortly?
No, he won't.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in that case, I think I want to thank our esteemed panel, Susan Schwartz from the USA and our own Rob Herholtz from Voice of Men 360. Thank you for the wonderful job you've done today. And hang on 1 second. And also to our producer and the man behind the controls, our president, Sivam Velautam, and of course our audience out there. We do hope you enjoyed this presentation and that you would have benefited in some small way from it. So from all of us here at Voice of Men 360, and again to our two special guests, Rob and Susan, thank you very much for joining us. And we bid you cheers and a happy Father's Day 2025. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, guys. It was great to meet you.
Thank you. It was delightful. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thanks all.